This is David Prosper, host of the Leadership Revolution. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast from Public House Media.
In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. Hello, welcome to Choose to Rise. I'm so grateful that you're here with me today, especially amidst all of the chaos that's going on. I hope that I can provide some value to you today and help you be an overcomer in the situation and not so much a victim of all the things that are going on in our lives. And so I want to talk today about how the obstacle is the way. This is a book that I started reading recently based on a recommendation from a friend, actually a fellow podcaster from Rewritten right here on our network, Julian Candia. And she talked about how The Obstacle is the Way is a book that she has just really loved because it served her in the perfect times in her life. And so today I want to share with you a little bit about the book, a little bit about how obstacles have become the way in my life and how I've used them to overcome and cope with some really difficult times in my life and just kind of going through things, right? So whether it's an unpleasant boss or it's a block that blocks your hopes for promotion, or it's an economic climate time, or it's a relationship with a spouse, or it's some sort of disease, or it's some sort of virus that just seems to be popping up all out of nowhere. There are lots of obstacles that arise in our lives in every activity that we participate in. And this, in doubt, is just a stage of life, right? We have ups and downs. We live on a roller coaster. There are good days and bad days. I've talked about in the past, my pastor talks about how we are like a train car riding on two tracks, a good track and a negative track, a hopeful track and a sorrowful track, a joy track and a pain track, and how the obstacles that we come across in life are the things that are going to help us grow, for lack of a better word, to overcome things and to just strengthen who we are. And we learn through the struggle. And so many people lose hope when they're faced with lots of adversity, and because they think they do not have the capacity to overcome them. But however, it's super possible to transform from your obstacles to our advantage by changing our perspective. And really thinking about the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, it's really important to think about like every obstacle is an opportunity. And I don't mean like an opportunity to take advantage of people. I'm saying an opportunity for us to learn, an opportunity for us to grow and to serve people in any sort of way that we can learn and grow from it, right? And so there's a lot of wisdom in this book, and I want to be able to just share some tips, some strategies from it, and just add value to your life today. So by perceiving obstacles objectively, by acting against their weaknesses, and by persevering through your will, you can transform the difficulties you encounter into fueling what you can fuel to great success. All right. So today we're going to talk about how to learn to see things objectively without passion, and to find new solutions for your problems, why it's useless to seek to want to control others and the environment, and how to reconcile with reality to better accept your choices, how Gandhi managed to return from an empire without violence, and why exposing yourself to a reasonable dose of chaos is a source of progress. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like we are thrown head deep, nose deep into chaos right now. And so I don't know what a reasonable dose of chaos can do for your life, but I think that being a part of this change in our world, this unprecedented times, it has really been a way to we're going to see lots of progress. Kind of like how that slingshot like pulls you back, and that feels painful or that feels hard. But as soon as it flies off, it just skyrockets, right? And so when you feel like you're going deep into things, but you're just going to go higher and farther when you've worked through the struggle to get back to reality and back forward with forward momentum. So perception is the way we see and understand what's going on around us, and what we decide to interpret and how we do to decide to interpret these events around us. Our perception is a source of strength or of great weakness. And so how you decide to look at something is really the thing that makes it a good or bad situation, a pain or a joy. And so each obstacle we face is unique for each of us, but the responses they elicit are always the same: frustration, confusion, helplessness, depression, or anger. because it keeps us from progressing. The problem lies in our attitude and our approach. If actions can be hampered by what is beyond us, then there can be no hindrance to our intentions or dispositions. The mind adapts and converts to the obstacle in its own ends. So like big companies, big people try to find ways to turn to weaknesses into strength. Being exposed to a constraint, therefore, represents an opportunity to overcome it. And what is the way becomes the way. What's in the way becomes the way. I'm going to say that again. What's in the way becomes the way. The problem becomes the solution, right? Overcoming obstacles is a discipline in 3 essential steps. It starts with how we look at our specific problems, attitude or approach, and then the energy and creativity with which we break them down and transform them into opportunities. Finally, culture and the maintenance of an inner will allows us to manage defeat and difficulty. So the discipline of perception really is a big deal here. And when you are faced with an obstacle that seems insurmountable, you should try to 1, be super objective. 2, to control your emotions, really think about things and how you're going to respond. 3, to choose to see the good in every situation. You've heard me say that before. Ignore what bothers or limits others. To put things into perspective. To come back to and present them to the very present moment, and to focus on what can be controlled, not what's outside of your control. In this way, you can see the opportunity inside the obstacle. There's no right way or no wrong way. There's only perception. How you respond and how somebody else responds can be and will be completely different. You don't have to approve everything your mind perceives to be negative. In fact, your mind is developed and designed to keep you safe and is always looking for the safe option. But we all know that the safe option isn't always the best option. It's not going to be the one that helps you get farther in life. There is an event itself. The story will tell yourself in its meaning. In other words, you're an accomplice in both the creation and the destruction of each of your obstacles. The second really big point I wanted to say is learn to see things objectively, right? When you encounter an obstacle, how do you react? Do you think the world could be against you? Are you thinking that the problems will never go away? How about instead, you should be thinking about taking a step back, looking at the situation objectively and asking yourself, what can I do to turn this obstacle into an advantage? How am I impacting the situation here? Being reflective is always a great way to just take that 30,000-foot view and really look at the situation from a different perspective. The phrase, it happened and it's bad, is actually 2 impressions. The first is, it's happened. That's objective. The second is, it's bad, is subjective. There's a difference between observing and perceiving. And one is content to simply see what is, where the other one sees more than what was there. Objectivity consists in removing oneself and the subject part. What happens when you give advice to others? Their problems are clear and the solutions are obvious. When we are faced with our own obstacles, though, we lack that objectivity and we don't see the obvious things in front of us. There's blind spots in our life, kind of like the sun is doing to me right now. The obstacles become one when you decide that it's an effect on you. An obstacle, it becomes an obstacle when you decide that it's going to have an effect on you. Let that sink in a little bit. By modifying your personal point of view, you can transform the initial obstacle into a solution to the problem encountered. I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people in my world right now that we are in this crisis of health, right? So many people are getting sick and we're trying to flatten the curve and we're trying to do all these things. And as a health coach, as a life coach, this is our time to step up and shine and help people and serve people and give our services to people and help them live a healthier lifestyle. And no shaming involved. It's just more of a hand reached out to help people. And, a lot of people, some people think that this, there are definitely people that are in an icky, taking advantage kind of situation. And that is 1000% not where I'm coming from in any sort of way. But the obstacle becomes one when you decide that it has an effect on you. So this virus can be an obstacle to my business because it could be nobody wants to take advantage of working out and being healthy. But I would flip it around and say, this is the perfect time for people to work out and be healthy. And I'm changing my mindset. And I'm not seeing this virus as an obstacle to my way of life. In fact, my way of life hasn't changed at all, other than my family's a little bit home more home more now than it was before. But it's just a matter of living your life and moving forward. And your point of view, your personal point of view, is what's going to transform a situation into an obstacle or an opportunity. So detach yourself from your personal and highly subjective view of the situation. Act as if your problem is not important, even insignificant, really. And the reasoning is always allows you to assess the scenario and consider options more quickly. Imagine giving good advice to a loved one to overcome an obstacle. What would you say to him or her? What would you have suggested that he or she do? Think about your problem in that sort of way. Think about the problem as not yours, or the obstacle as not your own, but of somebody else. What would you say to them? How would you have them respond? The next big takeaway is to accept your control zone. This one can be kind of hard, but if you can do it, it's so powerful. We cannot control everything that happens to us. Newsflash, we can't. Understanding your area of control means that you're able to separate what you can control from what you're not able to control. And what's on the outside of your control zone, the weather, the economy, other people, circumstances, natural disasters, judgments from others, emotions of other people, how other people respond, all of that stuff outside of you, those are things that you cannot control. The environment contains a lot of uncontrollable things. And this is a fundamental way that you need to really think about what's going on around you and what truly is an obstacle and what's something you control and what's something you can't control. The better you can tell what you can control from what you can't control, the happier and more productive you will be. Trust me on this one. Focus all of your energy on the things you can influence and let the rest just happen. There are a lot of us that are just trying not to pay attention to the news right now because 99.9% of the information you learn is completely outside of your comfort zone. Instead of worrying about what's going on in the world around you, ignore the news and allow yourself to spend time on what you can control, your current situation, what's happening inside your home, inside your world with your people, and what you can do to improve the situation that you're in. The next one is find the opportunity to post-traumatic growth. Now, the Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Have you heard that phrase before? I know I had. I didn't know he said that. But post-traumatic growth is a process by which a person's trauma survivors experience positive changes in their life. Now, remember we talking about that slingshot where you feel like you get pulled back down into negativity and all the things. But when you're being pulled back in life, you're being set up to explode and extend from a negative to a good. And so when you can really think about how this cognitive work that flows from trauma can lead to personal development, how you're choosing to make positive, grow from it, gain strength from it. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, you're seeing it as an opportunity. A fight against an obstacle inevitably leads to the development of a new operating mode. Beyond isolation, emotional disturbance, it is possible to develop a greater taste of life with more opportunity, more developed sense of compassion, especially towards those who've experienced the same kinds of things that you've experienced. So whether you have had any sort of trauma in your life, whether you've had a relationship issue, maybe you've had a physical issue, maybe you've had, a financial crisis, maybe you've had, maybe cancers in your family or anything really, any sort of trauma that you've had, you can refocus that energy and you can refocus and you can take those things that have happened to you in life and refocus and reprioritize and not to the extent of the struggle, that it defines you or that you woe is me kind of thing, but you use that grit and that strength and that power that comes out of that and you refocus that energy into something creative and amazing and to help change the world. Of all the strategies discussed so far that we've talked about today, this is the one that you can use constantly. And if you can change your perspective, then you can reveal the benefits of any obstacle that hides beneath the surface. Okay, the last one is action. This is a practical skill. Oscar Wilde says, "It is important to have big dreams enough not to lose sight of them when you're pursuing them." So when we have seen the importance of change of perspective, but it's not enough unless we also act on it. We can look at something and we can say it's beautiful, we can make sure it's amazing, but if you don't face the obstacle, if you separate it from your life and from the life that you wish you would lead, you need discipline, you need persistence, you need flexibility so that you can take action in order to use the information that you now have in the best interest of your objectives. Therefore, Obstacles can be overcome with pragmatic action. It is coherent. It is deliberate process, which serves a very strategic vision, all done with energy, persistence, common sense, irritation, and the resilience that you are building by working through the struggle. When you get frustrated in your pursuit of your own goals, don't complain about the adversity and the obstacles that you're encountering. What you focus on, you create more of. And you will not change anything anyway, because what you're constantly focusing on are things that keep you stuck. Only action that takes precedence over everything else. It's normal to be discouraged at times. I get discouraged all the times too. I get frustrated with things, but instead of saying, woe is me and I'm stuck, I try to find all the ways that I can find a solution to get out of it. It's not acceptable to give up on the forefront. It's not acceptable to say, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm going back to my comfort zone, because you are made for more. You are designed to go further places. So if you want to get going, my goal is to quickly to help you find a way, identify the weakness of an obstacle. The biggest obstacles hide behind the biggest weaknesses. And Gandhi, like I talked about before, proved it with his non-violent movement of civil disobedience. He demonstrated how a great power can be turned against itself. Gandhi knew he couldn't change the British military rule in direct conflict, so he decided to use non-violence and symbolic acts to show injustice. So he did all kinds of things. One of them was his salt march that he led hundreds of thousands of Indians through the oceans to collect salt, direct opposition of the British law, which prohibited the collection of unregulated salt. Because he was a nonviolent effort, Gandhi challenged the British rule and was able to demonstrate the importance of their laws over the Indian people. Now, I'm not telling you to go break laws. I'm not telling you to go do these things, but I am saying that you can identify the weaknesses of the obstacle, and you can look at things with a different perspective, and you can do things that are going to help you reach your end goal, have a greater positive good for everyone else, and you can change the perception of your reality. Perceptions can be managed. Actions can be managed. We can think clearly. We can have creative answers. We can look for opportunities. We can take initiative. We cannot do is control the world around us. So despite everything that you're trying to do, some obstacles may prove to be impassable to overcome. Certain actions are made impossible. Certain paths may seem impassable, but this is not necessarily a bad thing, because it invites us to practice other virtues like humility and discernment as well. Humility consists of in accepting one's powerlessness at certain times to get around obstacles and move on. Sometimes you're just going to beat your head against the same consistent wall. But if we're not finding new perspectives and we aren't able to get around it, it may just be time to say, this isn't where I'm supposed to be, and move on. Failure is inevitable, and I want you to know that I want you to fail over and over and over again. I want you to keep fighting. I want you to keep going. I want you to look at all the external and objective forces, and I don't want you to back away when things get hard. I want you to keep fighting through, but I also want you to recognize when fighting isn't the answer anymore. And so keep knowing that what you can control and what you can't control. If you're trying to fight something that you can't control and you're not going to have an influence on it, it's probably time to go focus on the things you can control and put your perception and your emotions into working on giving those things your 100%. The next piece is the discipline will push your limits. After identifying the best way to perceive an obstacle, the best action to overcome it, we will use our will to persevere until the obstacle has been overcome. Our will is our internal power, our ability to channel our perception and our action to recognize what change we can make without worrying about what we cannot change. This one is where I kind of talk about getting tunnel vision, right? Where you really want to put those blinders on like they put on a racehorse and say, get in your zone, get in your lane, focus on what you can focus on. This includes your emotions, your internal factors, your judgments, your attitude, your response, your decisions, thinking about what it is that you can control and not worrying about what happens on the outside. You can't change them anyway. So only focus on what you can control. Stay in your lane and focus on the goals and the purpose and the gifts that God's given you. And you can acknowledge your willingness and your power to change, and the internal obstacles while facing and accepting the external obstacles will inevitably help you overcome all kinds of things. So there are lots of ways that we cannot there are lots of things that we cannot change, right? There are lots of things we can change, and knowing the difference between the two is definitely something that's going to make you stronger. It's going to make you more alive. It's going to make you more assertive. You're going to be able maybe find things that you might regret, but if you don't ever go and try, you will never know. So I want you to really focus now on all the things that you can be, right? Sometimes when you're faced with a really difficult problem, one of the best ways to create opportunity is to think, if I can't solve it on my own, how can I at least make it easier for other people? How can I leave this world a better place? How can I think about this situation and give new perspective, new light to it? Maybe turn it a quarter notch and see who else can see something else as well. Bring people into the fold with you and work on things together. We're never meant to do this life alone. We are meant to do this with other people, in community with other people. And so when you're working through situations and you're trying to survive in the face of a hostile environment like we're kind of in right now, how can we use the situations to benefit other people? If it's not for our own loved ones, how can we leave the world a better place, make life a little bit easier, move on from a situation, or help other people in the future based on what we know right now? Embrace this power that you have within you, this feeling of belonging to a larger whole. It's an exhilarating thought to be wrapped up in, and we are all humans trying to do our very best we can to survive, to make this world a better place, and to live the life that God designed us to live. This is a process for being strong for others that will make you strong as well. So let's get started to start again. The great law of nature is that it never stops. There is no end. Will be an end someday, right? But we don't know when that is. So try to stop focusing on the end and start focusing on what you can do in the moment to make life better for you and make life better for others around us. Ultimately, all those things are emerging. So mental adaptation is to the worst case scenario, to how this people deal with the possibility of loss. Invest in good deeds rather than possessions. Things can only be stolen from us, but not good deeds, not our mind, not our heart, not our belief in things. So really focus in on the things that are the things that you can make a change in. And with each obstacle, you will learn something. You will develop new strength. You will develop new wisdom and perspective that will benefit you as you continue to move forward. As we share what we've learned in our life, we'll be able to help other people along the way in the process. So whatever happens, know that you will improve with each attempt and that you will get better as we continue to go. So I hope today that something I've said to you and talking about overcoming obstacles and seeing them as opportunities to grow, and even when they're difficult, that you can find a way out of it, that I hope that helps you and encourages you and supports you in this day, and that you can see whatever is going on in your world right now as an opportunity to grow and be amazing. I hope today that something has helped you rise up out of your current situation to live your best life. I hope today that something I've said to you helps you be inspired and encouraged to go out and make this an amazing day for you and the people around you, and that you come back here again to Choose to Rise. I've got a long lineup of amazing topics for you to help you be your absolute best, and I hope that you come back and share this with other people. It means the world to me to see you share this on your social media. It means the world to me to see you tell other people about Choose to Rise and tagging me on Instagram and Facebook, KJPMEYER. It warms my heart that you feel it's a good thing to share. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you back here again next time. I will see you again soon.